Coming up on today's show, we're breaking down wide receiver targets in the 2026 recruiting cycle for the Crimson Tide. And I think we're going to just continue to do this until those official visits really start happening for Alabama. So what position group do you guys want us to talk about next? Today is wide receivers. What do you guys want next? Let me know in the comment section. What's going on, Crimson Tide fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. On today's show, we are breaking down some 2026 wide receiver targets for the Crimson Tide. But before we actually get into that, I want to take a look real quick at what, it looks like for Alabama in their current wide receiver room and kind of what are you going to have to replace going into this 2026 recruiting cycle. You got Jeremy Bernard. He is a senior. And I also want to make note as well. I got some notes here on how some of these guys were ranked coming out of high school. Jeremy Bernard was the number 37 wide receiver in that 2022 recruiting cycle. So when we're talking about some of these guys, if they're a little bit lower ranked, be patient with some of these guys. They can blossom and turn into some really good wide receivers. But Jeremy Bernard, he's going to be a senior this year, so you would expect that he's going to go off to the NFL draft next year, especially probably going to be a top 2-3 wide receiver for you this year. Isaiah Horton, also a redshirt junior. He was ranked in that 2022 class as the number 56 wide receiver. So two of the top wide receivers for Alabama right now going into next season were ranked, in the 30s and 50s in their respective classes. Same with Cole Adams. He was 43 in that 2023 class. He's a redshirt sophomore as well. Then you got a couple of other guys that are younger as well. And then Rico Scott was number 48 in that 2024 class. And then Latier Brooks, number 25. But, man, he was unranked for a while there, when Alabama first offered him. So, just because there are some lower ranked guys, we're going to talk about some higher ranked guys first, but, you get into this, wide receiver room and you're just able to blossom in terms of your progression and stuff like that. So, when we're talking about some of those guys, just keep that in the back of your head as well. But I would assume Alabama's probably only going to have to replace 2 wide receivers, barring anybody hitting the transfer portal after the season ends. All right, the first guy that I want to talk about today, we're going to talk about committed players first. First 4 players. First one here is Tristen Keys. He is the number 1 wide receiver in this 2026 cycle and also the number 1 player out of the state of Mississippi, number 3 overall. He currently right now is committed to LSU, but the door supposedly is not quite shut yet. If you remember last year as well, Derek Meadows was committed to LSU all the way up until signing day, and then on signing day, he ended up flipping from LSU. So, the door is never shut until pen hits paper, and then I guess at the end of the day, it's not even shut then at that point. So some possible, official visits here for Tristen Keys if he does decide to actually take them. LSU, obviously, he's committed there. But then Auburn, Miami, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas A&M are all still in the mix there for Tristen Keys. It's just going to depend. Is he 100% committed? Is he going to shut down his recruitment? So far, he hasn't actually made that announcement. So never know what could happen, but Tristen Keys, number 1 wide receiver, Alabama possibly still in play for him. All right, we'll skip to 3 more players immediately here. Caden Dixon Wyatt, or Watt, probably, maybe there. He's committed to Ohio State. He committed there last week, number 15 wide receiver overall. And then Kenny Darby, he is also committed to LSU as the number 24 wide receiver in this class. And then Corey Barber, man, this one kind of hurts me a little bit. He ended up committing to Ole Miss this past weekend. A little bit lower rated, number 47 or 46 wide receiver in this class. But man, the kid can absolutely fly. Alabama, they're probably going to get some higher ranked, wide receivers in this class. So, it might not actually hurt at the end of the day losing Corey Barber there, but he did commit to Ole Miss this past weekend. So let me know here at the pinned comment of today's video, will Alabama flip a wide receiver in this 2026 recruiting cycle? If they do, man, I really hope it is Tristen Keys. But let me know. Type Y for yes or N for no at the pinned comment of today's video. All right, two more players that I think Alabama really is in, a decent at least spot here for. Boobie Feaster and Cederian Morgan. Cederian Morgan, the number 1 player in the state of Alabama. Feaster, the number 6 player out of the state of Texas. Both those guys as well in the top 50. If you remember, Boobie Feaster was in that 2027 recruiting cycle before he actually reclassified to this 2026 cycle. And really, he was a 5-star for a little bit, dropped down a little bit more. You never know how this last season for him, I guess it'll now be his senior season in high school. You never know what could happen. Maybe he even jumps back up into the top 5 ranks there. In terms of Boobie Feaster here, he does have an official visit set with Alabama. Will be there on May 30th, then has USC, Texas A&M, and LSU as well. He also is expected to commit on July 4th. Seems right now that he's kind of an LSU lean, but like I said, you never know. Recruiting is absolutely crazy. And then going to Cederian Morgan, I think he's probably your top wide receiver target in this 2026 cycle. Georgia, Clemson, Florida, Auburn, Alabama there on June 20th. And then Colorado, he actually took that visit to Colorado this past weekend. If you guys remember last week, we were talking about Cederian Morgan. We had this exact same graphic here, but I put no visit for Colorado because I couldn't actually find a date. Well, it was last weekend. So you can see some of those photos and stuff like that he posted on his Twitter page. But Alabama will get the last visit before he makes his commitment on July 2nd. Before we get into some other stuff here, want to give you guys an update on our May sub count for. We only have 3 college football channels here at Chat Sports, and we are beating the absolute crap out of both Michigan and our Ohio State football reports here in terms of our sub count. Our goal that the bosses set was 500 subscribers here in the month of May. So help me out, stay up to date on all Alabama football news, and especially recruiting this time of the year. Hit that sub button for me right now. And we'll continue on with a couple guys that we haven't really talked about much here in just a second. But today's show is brought to you by Fanatics. You guys can get up to 30% off right now just by going to chatsports.com/Bama hoodies. They've got a lot of different options that you guys can choose from. They got the camo ones there, the quarter zips, the regular hoodies as well. The deals kind of vary. Some things are on sale, some things aren't. So usually the little link that I put over there in the corner of your screen, I try to find one that is on sale. But all you guys got to do, if you need some more Alabama football gear to kick off the 2025 college football season, just go over to chatsports.com/Bama hoodies, and you guys can get hooked up today. All right, the next 2 guys that I want to talk about here, Ryan Mosley. He is the number 28 wide receiver in this class out of the state of Georgia. And then I believe it's Samarian Wingo is how you pronounce his name there. Really sorry if I butchered that, but I think I got that one right. You guys know I'm absolutely terrible with pronunciations and whatnot. He is the number 23 wide receiver out of the state of Florida as well. We'll talk about here in just a second some of the official visits and everything like that these guys have going for them. But, it seems right now that, they might not necessarily be some of the, top targets for Alabama like we talked about in the beginning of today's video, some of those guys. But, they could be kind of, not backups, but like, if Alabama doesn't land the guys that they really, really want, these are some other players that would definitely fit really nice in Alabama's system. But I want to hear from you guys here on today's video. How many wide receivers do you guys think Alabama will take in this 2026 class? They took 2 last year. At the most, you're probably losing 2 wide receivers, to the NFL draft. Maybe some guys going to the transfer portal, but still, you're not necessarily having to really go after a ton of guys at that spot. So let me know what you guys think. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it more than that? Probably not, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. All right, back to Mosley here. He does have a couple official visits set up here. Got Georgia on May 16th, Alabama on May 30th, South Carolina on June 6th, Texas A&M on June 13th, and then Nebraska on June 20th. Now, Penn State was originally on this list listed for that May 16th date, but he ended up moving that Georgia visit up to May 16th, and then he slid that Alabama visit in there for May 30th. Steve Wilfong also wrote in his recruiting whip around article yesterday that he does like Georgia to land Mosley as of right now. We'll see what happens, but he did meet with both Jamarcus Shepard and Courtney Morgan here in the last couple of weeks, so that communication is still going on right now between Ryan Mosley and the Crimson Tide. Let's go over to Wingo here now. He also has a couple official visits set up as well. Miami on May 30th, Florida on June 6th, Alabama on June 13th, and then South Carolina on June 20th. Those are all the dates that I could find anyways that were absolutely official. Also did read that, he was going to try to slide a LSU visit in there as well. We'll see what happens, but it does feel like beating out one of those Florida teams right now is kind of going to be tough. He is from Florida, so it'll be easier for his family, and I think that's, one of the things that he has said throughout this process, that, his family coming to see him play was really, important to him. So Miami, Florida, those are going to be the top two teams to really, you're going to have to beat out in terms of this recruiting process if you want to land him in that 2026 recruiting class.